You don't get to choose where you're born, but fate doesn't just place you into a royal court, it drops you into the center of a nation-sized power struggle where assassinations are casual, betrayal is standard, and the price for failure is carved in blood. You're born Ying Zheng, future emperor of China, though at the time, you're just a child surrounded by snakes, all watching, waiting, calculating how to use you or eliminate you. The year is 259 BCE. The Warring States period is in full swing. 7 kingdoms are tearing each other apart like wolves over a carcass, each hoping to unify the fractured land under its own flag. You're born in Handan, the capital of your family's enemy, the state of Zhao. You're technically a hostage, a bargaining chip, one misstep away from being tossed aside or executed if the political winds shift. Your father, a Qin prince named Yiren, was sent to Zhao as part of a diplomatic agreement. While in exile, he met your mother, Lady Zhao, a beautiful concubine tied to a wealthy merchant with political ambitions. Whether it was romance, strategy, or convenience that brought you into the world doesn't matter. You're here now, and your life immediately becomes a game of survival. Even as an infant, you sense the tension. You grow up hearing whispers in the corridors, watching soldiers at the gates who may one day turn on you. Your caretakers alternate between loyalty and fear, knowing that serving you could lead to glory or to execution. You're born into a palace, but it feels more like a prison carved in jade. When you're still a toddler, your father is smuggled out of Zhao and returns to the Qin capital of Shenyang. A few years later, political tides shift, and by some miracle or manipulation, your father becomes king. You, still young, are brought back to Qin. Suddenly, you're no longer a political liability. You're heir to a throne, a future ruler of one of China's most powerful and aggressive kingdoms. But power, as you quickly learn, never comes without a cost. Your father dies when you're just 13, a child on paper, but now a king in name. You are crowned King Zheng of Qin, 13 years old, and already wearing the heaviest crown in all of China, but no one expects you to actually rule. That job goes to your regent, Lu Buwei, the same merchant who once gifted your mother to your father. Some even whisper that he's your real father. You hear it, of course, how could you not? Every whisper cuts deeper than a blade. Lu Buwei acts like he's your mentor, your protector, but behind the smiles, he's maneuvering for influence, making deals in your name, gathering power while you sit in study halls, memorizing Confucian classics and Sun Tzu's battle doctrines. You learn quickly that knowledge is power, but secrets are more powerful. You begin to listen more than you speak, observe more than you act. Over the next few years, you grow not just in age, but in mind. You study the chaos unfolding across China. You learn geography, diplomacy, military strategy, and how to detect a lie by watching someone's eyes. You stop trusting gifts, stop believing in flattery, and begin to understand the brutal arithmetic of ruling. Loyalty is bought, respect is earned, and fear is the only thing people never fake. But Lu Buwei isn't your only problem. As you age into your teenage years, another figure enters the palace, Lao Ai, a courtier installed suspiciously close to your mother. Their relationship is soon whispered about behind screens and silk drapes. Rumors turn to facts. Lao Ai is not only your mother's lover, he's building his own faction within the court. He wants power, and if necessary, he'll go through you to get it. You're 17 when it happens. Lao Ai's forces make their move, an attempted coup right inside your palace walls. For a moment, your fate teeters on a knife's edge. But you're ready. You've been preparing for this your whole life. With the support of loyal generals, you strike back decisively. Lao Ai is captured, executed. His supporters are rounded up and purged. Your mother is disgraced and quietly removed from the center of power. After that, something in you hardens. Permanently. You're no longer just a king in name, you're now a ruler in truth, and not a ceremonial one. You begin centralizing power, cutting off factions, stripping titles from those who hesitate to kneel. Lu Buwei, your former regent, is next. Despite his earlier help or manipulation, you exile him. Some say he commits suicide out of disgrace. You don't flinch, you don't mourn. You simply keep moving forward. By your early 20s, your vision is crystal clear. You will do what no ruler before you has done. You will end the centuries of chaos. You will crush the other 6 kingdoms. You will unite China, not through diplomacy or marriage alliances, but through iron, fire, and absolute rule. This is your beginning, a child born into treachery, a boy who became king in a world that wanted to use or destroy him, and now a man who intends to carve his name into the bones of history. This is your life as Qin Shi Huang. You're barely out of your 20s, but already you've lived the lives of 10 men. You've outplayed your regent, crushed a traitor in your own household, and consolidated your throne. Now, the goal is no longer survival, it's domination, the kind that lasts for centuries, the kind where your name becomes the name. The warring states have ravaged China for over 200 years. 7 kingdoms, Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, Wei, and Qin, locked in endless conflict. Endless bloodshed, shifting alliances, betrayals that would make a snake blush. You decide it ends with you. And you sit you're not gonna wait. Qin is already a powerhouse, militarily disciplined, economically stable, and rich in iron, the lifeblood of war. But what you bring to the battlefield is more than numbers. You bring obsession. Every lesson you've absorbed since childhood, every deception, every survival tactic, every military doctrine, you now unleash with surgical precision. First on your list, the state of Han, the weakest of the 7, a test run. Your generals march with terrifying efficiency, led by a brilliant strategist named Wang Jian. Han folds quickly. There's little glory in the conquest, just clean, brutal efficiency. No mercy, no resistance. Just 1 kingdom down, 6 to go. Next, Zhao, the state where you were born, where your mother hid her shame, where you were once a political pawn. The irony isn't lost on you. You return not as a prisoner, but as its executioner. Zhao resists fiercely. Their army is large, their generals capable, but your discipline outmatches their bravado. You break them down slowly, relentlessly. You use deception, psychological warfare, and terrain to your advantage. You trap their forces, split their command, and grind them into dust. By 228 BCE, Zhao is yours. You move on to Wei, then Yan, both falling in brutal, calculated campaigns. Your armies are like a machine, uniformed, ruthlessly efficient, and utterly loyal. The Qin war machine doesn't retreat. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't forgive. It conquers. Word spreads through the remaining kingdoms like wildfire. Qin is unstoppable. Villages surrender before your soldiers even arrive. Other states try bribery, flattery, under-the-table deals. You laugh, then crush them anyway. Fear is your new language, and every general, noble, and peasant speaks it fluently now. But then comes the real challenge, Chu. Chu isn't just powerful, it's massive. A sprawling kingdom with deep coffers, experienced armies, and a long, proud history. It's everything you've been working toward, but they don't go down easy. At first, you underestimate them. You send a General Li Xin with a relatively small force, confident, arrogant, maybe even bored. It's your first real mistake. Chu obliterates them. For a moment, the unbreakable image of Qin cracks. The other kingdoms pause, watching, waiting. Maybe you can bleed after all. But this isn't the same boy who survived court assassins. This is the man who buried his enemies alive. And you learn fast. You recall your most experienced general, the old and cautious Wang Jian. He warns you victory in Chu will require patience, manpower, and overwhelming force. Not glory, not cleverness, just crushing, unrelenting pressure. You agree, you swallow your pride, and then you give him 600,000 men. The campaign against Chu is slow, methodical, brutal. Your forces don't just fight, they wear Chu down. Villages are starved, cities are razed, rebels are executed en masse. You don't fight a war, you break a civilization. By 223 BCE, Chu falls. 1 kingdom remains, Qi. But Qi has already seen the writing on the wall. They don't fight. They surrender without a sword drawn. Some call it cowardice, you call it smart. By 221 BCE, it's set's done. For the first time in recorded history, the vast territory we now call China is united under one ruler. You. You are no longer King Zheng of Qin. You name yourself Shi Huangdi, the first emperor. Not king, not lord, not prince. Emperor. The word doesn't yet exist until you create it. You discard the old feudal system, replacing it with centralized rule. You standardize currency, weights, and measures. You impose a single written script across all regions. For the first time, people in the far corners of China, who once couldn't even understand each other, can now read the same laws, count the same coins, answer to the same emperor. You build roads, thousands of miles of them. You connect the empire with veins of stone, making sure armies, messengers, and tax collectors can reach every town, every village, every mountain outpost. You also begin building walls, not just one, but many, linking together to form a vast defensive barrier in the north, the prototype of what later generations will call the Great Wall. It's a message to the world: Qin does not bend, Qin does not yield. But you don't stop there. You launch a campaign against thought itself. To ensure loyalty, you suppress dissent. You distrust scholars who argue, poets who question, historians who glorify the past. You're building a new world. There's no room for nostalgia. The 100 schools of thought, banned. Confucian texts, burned. Those who resist, buried alive or silenced permanently. Critics call it tyranny. You call it unity. After centuries of chaos, of brother killing brother, of kingdoms rising and falling like leaves in a storm, you bring order. Ruthless, terrifying, but unbreakable order. You have forged an empire out of ash and blood, and you've carved your name into the bones of history. This was your conquest, the unification of a broken land, and the beginning of something far greater. The year is 221 BCE, and you now sit upon a throne no man has ever occupied, not just king of Qin, but emperor of all under heaven. For the first time in history, China is united under a single sovereign, and that sovereign is you. But unifying the land is only the beginning. Now you must unify its spirit, its people, its will. You waste no time. First, you get rid of the old nobility. The aristocrats who once ruled individual kingdoms like gods in their own little heavens, gone. You strip them of their power, uproot them from their ancestral lands, and force them to relocate to your capital in Shenyang. There, under your watchful eye, they become harmless decorations, beautiful birds in golden cages, posing no threat to your authority. You replace them with loyal administrators, people selected not by bloodline, but by merit and obedience. These are men who owe their careers, their lives, and their families' safety to your rule. You create China's first true bureaucracy, a system that doesn't rely on clan loyalty, but on imperial command. It's efficient, hierarchical, and utterly under your control. Next, you unify thought. Or rather, you purge it. You've seen what philosophy does. You've seen the way Confucians romanticize the past, preaching about virtue, ritual, and rulers who should serve the people. That kind of talk threatens everything you've built. You aren't interested in what came before, you're building a new world. So you outlaw the 100 schools of thought, you order the burning of thousands of books, texts on poetry, philosophy, history, all swept away in flames. Only works on agriculture, medicine, and your own laws are spared. And it doesn't stop with books. You target the scholars themselves. The loudest critics, the idealists, the stubborn, hundreds are buried alive. You send a message, one stronger than any decree. In this empire, knowledge does not challenge power, it serves it. You reshape daily life too. No more local coinage, there's now a standard currency. No more regional scripts, you enforce one system of writing across the empire. Axle lengths on carts are standardized to match the width of your new roads. Even the width of bricks is controlled. A nation of chaos becomes a nation of rules. Precise, efficient, predictable. But control isn't set enough. You want permanence. You order monuments built not for the gods, but for your legacy. You envision an empire so vast, so awe-inspiring, that it will last 10,000 generations. You command the construction of massive palaces, imperial roads, defensive walls, canals. You move mountains, literally cutting through stone and redirecting rivers to fuel your vision. The labor force, millions of peasants, prisoners, and conscripts, they work day and night, many to their deaths. It's said the Great Wall eats men faster than any army. You don't deny it. You see it as the price of greatness. Mortals die, but the empire, your empire, will endure. Fear becomes your most reliable tool. People speak your name with awe and terror. You issue decrees without debate. Your face appears on seals, banners, coins. You become not just emperor but almost divine, an earthly bridge between the people and the heavens. You change the language of power itself. No one refers to themselves with the same words they use for you. Where kings once called themselves benevolent or noble, you create a new title, Huangdi, a word never used before, combining the mythical rulers of ancient times with the idea of divine rule. You are the first emperor, the axis of the world, the still center around which all turns. But behind the robes, the ceremonies, and the armies, behind the thousands of laws, the executions, and the symbols, something stirs. A whisper, a restlessness, a deep and growing unease. Because absolute control comes at a cost. People may obey, but they do not love. They respect, but they do not trust. In every corner of the empire, beneath the polished surface, discontent simmers. Peasants whisper about heavy taxes and brutal labor quotas. Former nobles dream of restoration. Scholars mourn the burning of books. Soldiers grumble about endless deployments. But none of this reaches you directly. You're insulated by layers of officials who tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. In their eagerness to please, they shield you from the empire's cracks that grow wider with each passing year. And then, there sits your own body. Despite your strength, your stamina, your iron will, you are still flesh and blood, and flesh, no matter how regal, eventually fails. You begin to age, and with age comes obsession. You become haunted by a single, terrifying thought that your rule, your order, your empire might die with you. So you begin to chase immortality. You consult alchemists, mystics, dream interpreters. You send envoys to distant islands in search of elixirs and divine lands where death holds no sway. You drink concoctions made of mercury, convinced they will preserve your life even as they slowly poison your body. You retreat deeper into superstition. The first emperor, once a war-hardened realist, a ruthless visionary, now wanders his empire chasing legends, because to lose control over death, that would be the one failure you cannot accept. But the truth is unavoidable. You may have tamed an empire, rewritten laws, restructured society, and redefined kingship, but you are still a man, and men die. Still, you press forward. You command the building of your tomb, a structure unlike anything the world has ever seen. A subterranean palace sealed beneath earth and guarded by an army of terracotta soldiers, thousands of life-sized warriors, each unique, each facing east, to guard you for eternity. It is your final masterpiece, your last fortress. A place where even death will have to knock before entering. You are the first emperor, ruler of all beneath the heavens, and the thought of it all slipping through your fingers, your empire, your legacy, your body terrifies you more than war ever did. You faced assassins, rebellions, impossible odds on the battlefield. But this death is something you can't outmaneuver, can't intimidate, can't legislate into obedience. And so, in your final years, your greatest battle isn't against rival kings, it's against time itself. The pursuit of immortality consumes you. You no longer trust the old methods of longevity, herbs, meditation, restraint. You want something more, something potent, eternal. Your court becomes flooded with alchemists, magicians, and con men, each promising elixirs that will grant you life beyond death. You give them riches, land, protection. In return, they give you potions laced with mercury, arsenic, and gods know what else. You drink them all. You swallow them like commandments. And slowly, they begin to unmake you. Your body starts to betray you. Your hands tremble, your speech slows, your skin breaks out in lesions. You feel tired, but not the kind of tired that a night's rest fixes. It's deeper, rotting. But still, you demand more elixirs, more answers, more expeditions to the fabled Isles of the Immortals, mythical lands said to lie across the Eastern Sea, untouched by death. You send hundreds of men, explorers, priests, generals, to search for these islands. Most never return. Some do, empty-handed and terrified. If you lie, claiming storms blocked the way or the path disappeared into mist, you begin to suspect them. Maybe they're hiding the truth from you. Maybe they found immortality and are keeping it for themselves. This is when the paranoia begins. You've ruled through fear for so long, it's hard to remember who truly serves you and who only pretends. You begin seeing betrayal everywhere. You change your palace routes daily. You sleep in different rooms each night. You stop trusting your advisors, then your doctors, then your own guards. Even your closest officials begin to feel the chill of your suspicion. You demand detailed reports on their families, their spending, their expressions during courts. Some disappear quietly, others are made examples of. Outside the palace walls, your empire still looks stable. The roads function. The officials issue decrees in your name. Taxes are collected, but underneath, the structure is groaning. Cracks form along every beam. The people grow restless. Your relentless labor projects, walls, tombs, canals, require an endless supply of hands and backs. Peasants are worked to death, soldiers are whipped for hesitation, entire villages are displaced, and every brick laid bears not just the weight of your ambitions, but the bodies of those crushed beneath them. Still, your focus is elsewhere. You obsess over omens. A meteor falls in the east, and it's reported that someone etched your name into it, along with the words, "The first emperor shall die, and his land shall be divided." You order the meteor ground into dust, the village nearest to where it landed, erased. Every man, woman, and child executed for letting such a prophecy exist. But you can grind fate into powder. You feel it closing in. Your final years are spent on the move. You no longer feel safe staying in one place, so you begin a massive imperial tour, traveling the empire by chariot in a procession so vast it takes weeks to organize and months to move. Your physicians follow you. So do your alchemists. The entourage is filled with carts carrying potions, scrolls, protective talismans, anything to ward off the inevitable. You grow more withdrawn, you stop appearing at public ceremonies, you refuse visitors, your courtiers whisper about your condition, but no one dares say the word dying. To speak it would be treason. Then, during the summer of 210 BCE, somewhere near the eastern coast in present-day Hebei province, your body finally gives out. Quietly. Alone. Far from the capital. The man who built an empire and chased eternal life falls victim to the one enemy he could never defeat. Your death is not announced immediately. Your most trusted official, Lei Si, panics. The empire is too fragile, too dependent on your image of divine strength, so he hides your death for weeks. He orders carts to be filled with fish to mask the stench of decay. He forges your final decrees. He sends messengers in your name. All the while, your body decomposes in secret. And the moment your death is confirmed, truly confirmed, the empire begins to unravel. Factions within the court move quickly. Lai Si conspires with another powerful eunuch, Zhao Gao, to alter your succession. Your intended heir, Fusu, your stern and idealistic son, is tricked into committing suicide. In his place, your younger and more easily manipulated son, Huhai, becomes second emperor. A puppet, controlled by men you once trusted. The very structure you built to last forever begins to collapse before you've even been buried. But your tomb, that sips something else. The workers you ordered decades earlier had been toiling non-stop. Beneath a mountain lies your final project, a sprawling underground world made to mirror your empire. Rivers of mercury, sealing constellations carved in stone, traps to kill grave robbers, and guarding it all, an entire army of terracotta soldiers, each carved with unique faces, armor, and postures. Thousands of them, all facing east, all ready to fight for you in the afterlife. It is your final act of control. A mausoleum not just to preserve your body, but to immortalize your idea. You may have died in pursuit of immortality, but in your own twisted way, you achieved it. No emperor will ever match your name in sheer ambition. No ruler will ever unite China the same way. For good or ill, you created the idea of China, and though your body rotted on the road, your legacy would linger like a shadow over every dynasty to come. You wanted to live forever, and in some ways, you do. Despite repeated warnings, you ignore superstition. A seer once urged caution, famously telling you to beware the Ides of March. Even your wife Calpurnia dreams of your death, begging you to remain home. But pride clouds your judgment. You refuse to appear fearful, determined to demonstrate strength by attending the Senate as usual. After all, Rome must see you're unafraid, invincible. That morning, unease grips Rome. Senators gather nervously, exchanging furtive glances, speaking quietly. Beneath the surface of respect hides jealousy, resentment, and fear of your growing power. They worry you seek monarchy, ending Rome's beloved republic permanently. Rumors spread swiftly, whispers of conspiracy trickling through marble halls. You step confidently from your home, greeting citizens warmly, masking lingering unease. Your bodyguards accompany you initially, yet halfway to the Senate, you dismiss them, declaring confidently, Rome needs no bodyguards to protect Caesar. It's a reckless decision, driven by pride, a decision you'll regret forever. Entering Pompey's theater, temporary home of the Senate, you greet senators cheerfully, unaware betrayal hides behind friendly smiles. They rise respectfully, yet tension fills the room palpably. You're guided toward your usual seat, placed before a statue of Pompey, your former ally turned enemy, a haunting irony you fail to notice. A senator, Tullius Cimber, approaches, petitioning clemency for his brother. Politely, you refuse. Suddenly, senators crowd closely, suffocatingly. Confused, annoyed, you turn sharply. What violence is this? Your heart pounds anxiously. Before you can react, hand seize your toga roughly, pulling violently. A sharp blade pierces deeply into your flesh, pain explodes instantly, disbelief overwhelming you. You stagger, stunned, turning desperately. Senators you trusted, friends, allies, men you elevated personally, stand holding bloody daggers, eyes blazing with hatred. A nightmare unfolding before you. More blades plunge repeatedly into your body, one after another, merciless, relentless. You fight desperately, courageously, yet betrayal crushes your spirit utterly. Among attackers, you glimpse Brutus, your protege, trusted confidant, almost a son to you. His blade plunges mercilessly, your heart shatters emotionally, betrayal worse than physical pain. Through blood-soaked lips, you utter famously, "Et tu, Brute? Even you, Brutus?" Strength drains rapidly. Legs buckle beneath you, body collapsing heavily onto cold marble. Senators scatter hurriedly, fear overcoming hatred. Silence engulfs the chamber eerily, broken only by your ragged breathing and trickling blood-staining polished floors. Life ebbs swiftly, memories flooding painfully, conquests, triumphs, friends, lovers, regrets. Rome's greatest leader lies dying, abandoned, betrayed cruelly. Strength fades, darkness descends inexorably. Your final breath escapes painfully. Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, victor of civil war, dictator of Rome, dies alone on the Senate floor, a brutal, humiliating end. Outside, panic grips Rome. News spreads rapidly, Caesar assassinated, Rome plunged into chaos. Crowds gather fearfully, anger growing dangerously. Your murderers hope to restore republic freedoms. Instead, civil unrest erupts violently, plunging Rome into deeper crisis. Your corpse lies unattended briefly, blood pooling, testament to betrayal's cost. Mark Antony, loyal friend and lieutenant, takes charge quickly. Grief-stricken yet politically shrewd, he displays your bloody toga dramatically during a public funeral. His fiery oration inflames crowds passionately, turning public opinion sharply against assassins. Rome demands revenge furiously, your killers flee swiftly, hunted viciously. Even dead, your influence remains unmatched. Yet power struggles emerge swiftly. Antony vs aggressively with young Octavian, your adopted heir, for control. Rome plunges deeper into turmoil, another civil war looming. Your death, intended to preserve Rome's republic, instead ignites violence, power struggles, further chaos. Rome suffers greatly, devastated by divisions your assassination unleashed tragically. Meanwhile, your funeral pyre burns brilliantly in Rome's forum, flames consuming your remains dramatically. Citizens weep openly, mourning deeply. Rome recognizes belatedly your greatness, mourning profoundly the tragic loss caused by short-sighted assassins. History remembers your death bitterly, as brutal betrayal destroying Rome's brightest hope for stability, peace, and greatness. But beyond grief lies profound reflection. Your assassination provides chilling warnings, dangers inherent in absolute power, tragic consequences when democracy falters, violence caused by political divisions unchecked. History studies your murder intently, analyzing betrayal's psychological complexities, political implications, profound costs to societies divided by hatred, fear, envy. Yet personally, your end remains deeply tragic. Despite immense power, wealth, accomplishments, you died betrayed by closest friends, abandoned cruelly in your final moments. Beneath ruthless ambition hid deep vulnerabilities, loneliness, insecurities, desires for respect, admiration, love never fully satisfied. Your assassination symbolizes tragically high personal cost ambition exacts, sacrificing relationships, morality, humanity itself for fleeting power, ultimately meaningless in death. Rome itself struggles profoundly afterward, torn apart by continued conflict your death ignited. Civil wars erupt repeatedly, ultimately leading Rome toward imperial monarchy. Ironically, your assassination, intended to protect republic freedoms, instead accelerated monarchy's rise inevitably. History observes bitterly this tragic irony, how assassins' misguided actions destroyed Rome's fragile democracy permanently. Yet, even centuries later, your death resonates powerfully. Societies worldwide study intensely your assassination's complexities, political, psychological, moral implications. Your life and death provide stark reminders of democracy's fragility, power's corrupting influence, profound human costs when ambition eclipses morality. Students learn vividly from your tragic fate critical lessons, importance of humility, moral integrity, democratic values, compassion. Your assassination, brutal and tragic, remains history's powerful cautionary tale. Julius Caesar, your violent death continues teaching humanity profound, timeless lessons, warnings about ambition's dangers, consequences of political division unchecked, importance democracy's preservation, necessity for leaders valuing morality above personal gain. This was your brutal, tragic assassination, the shocking betrayal ending your extraordinary life as Julius Caesar. You are dead. Your tomb is sealed. Your breath has left your body, but your shadow still stretches across the empire like a storm cloud refusing to pass. You thought you could rule forever, that your walls were tall enough, your soldiers loyal enough, your fear thick enough to hold it all together. But now, the man is gone, and the cracks can no longer be hidden. Your chosen successor, Fuzu, is dead by forged decree. Your true heir, strong in will and loyal to your ideals, is erased from the future by two men you trusted, Lai Si and Zhao Gao. In his place sits Hu Hai, your second son, a boy not a ruler, soft where he should be sharp. An echo of you, but without your voice, without your spine. He is given a new title, Qin Shi, second emperor of Qin, but history barely remembers his name, because what you built to last 10,000 generations starts to crumble after just 2. Zhao Gao, the eunuch who helped orchestrate the coup, becomes the true power behind the throne. A master manipulator, he whispers in Hu Hai's ear, shaping his thoughts, controlling his decrees, twisting his paranoia. The same fear you once used to rule now poisons your court from within. But without your force, your precision, your vision, it becomes chaos. The empire you unified begins to fracture almost immediately. The people, drained by decades of forced labor, taxation, and surveillance, are done whispering. They start shouting, then marching, then revolting. It begins small. In 209 BCE, just a year after your death, two low-ranking officers, Chen Sheng and Wu Guang, fail to report to a post on time due to flooding. They know the penalty for lateness is execution, so they do something unthinkable: they rebel. It's a spark. But in your empire where everything is dry and brittle, it becomes a wildfire. Peasant revolts erupt across the land. Former nobles rise up. Old enemies who once trembled at your name now see an opportunity to reclaim what was lost. And what's worse? The machinery of the Qin, so efficient under your hand, now breaks down completely. Your roads once carried your armies across the realm. Now they carry rebels. Your laws once brought order. Now they're used as justification for rebellion. And your Great Wall, it holds out invaders, but it can't hold in unrest. Inside the palace, Zhao Gao grows more paranoid. He suspects Li Si, your brilliant chancellor, of treason. He has him arrested, tortured, and executed. The man who once shaped your bureaucracy is now rotting in a ditch, his genius wasted, his loyalty unrewarded. Then Zhao Gao turns on Hu Hai. The puppet has served his purpose. In 207 BCE, the second emperor is forced to commit suicide. Another Qin ruler dead, not from foreign invaders, but from within the very halls of the palace. Zhao Gao installs a distant member of the royal family as a figurehead, but by then it's too late. The tide has turned, rebels breach the capital. The dynasty you founded, the one you poured your life and the lives of millions into building, falls in a single generation. The Qin dynasty, the first imperial dynasty in China, is over. 4 years, that's all it lasted after your death. And yet, your failure becomes your success. Because even as the dynasty crumbles, your vision endures. The chaos that follows your fall leads to a power vacuum, and eventually a new dynasty, the Han, rises. The Han emperors curse your cruelty, but quietly adopt many of your ideas. They keep your centralized bureaucracy. They continue using your standard scripts, weights, and measures. They repair and expand your roads. They even build on your Great Wall. They call you a tyrant, but they keep your skeleton. Because despite everything, despite your harshness, your book burnings, your crushing labor force, you did something no one else could. You turned chaos into structure. You transformed 7 warring kingdoms into one unified nation. You didn't just rule China. You created the idea of it. And over 2,000 years later, your name still carries weight, not as a myth, not as a symbol, as a real man. One with flaws carved in granite and achievements burned into the foundations of a civilization. Your tomb still lies hidden beneath a hill in Xi'an. Your terracotta army stands in rows, silent and eternal, staring into the darkness. Tourists shuffle by them now, staring into the faces of clay soldiers who were never meant to be seen, only to serve. No one has ever opened your burial chamber. Some say it's because of the traps, others say it's the rivers of mercury, some say it's because no one dares. And maybe that sits what you wanted, to be untouched, untouchable. To rule in death what you ruled in life, everything. This was your fall and your strange immortality. You didn't outlive death, but you outlived time. You are remembered not just as a king or a tyrant or a unifier. You are remembered as the first emperor.